Look around you right now. Pick any color, any one. The red of a tomato, the blue of the sky, the green of a leaf. You trust those colors completely. You've never questioned them. Why would you? Your gut says colors are out there in the world, real, fixed, waiting to be seen. Your gut is wrong, not slightly wrong, not metaphor wrong, completely, factually, scientifically wrong. Color does not exist outside your skull. Not one single shade, not one wavelength, nothing. And today, we're going to walk through 5 specific verdicts, 5 walls between you and the colorful universe you think you live in. By the time we reach the 5th, you won't just see color differently, you'll wonder what else your brain has been quietly inventing for you. Let's begin. Humans have been arguing about color for a very, very long time. Aristotle, the man who shaped Western thinking for 2,000 years, believed color was a real physical property, like weight, like temperature. He thought red was in the apple the way water is in a glass. Peel the apple, the redness is still there. He was wrong, but we didn't know it yet. For 2,000 years, we just agreed with him. Red is red, blue is blue, the world is painted, and we are reading the painting. Then Isaac Newton did something in 1666 that should have changed everything. He took a glass prism, held it up to sunlight, and watched white light split into a rainbow. He realized white light isn't white, it's everything, all at once, compressed. The prism just separated the ingredients. But here's what Newton said next, and this is the part we forgot. He wrote that the rays themselves have no color. The rays are just motion, just vibration. The color, he said, exists in the mind of the observer. He said it in 1666. We've been ignoring it ever since because our brains are very, very convincing liars. Hold this in your mind. There are 5 verdicts, 5 reasons that color every shade you have ever loved, every memory painted in warmth, is a construction, a story your brain tells faster than thought. Verdict 1 begins now. Here is what's actually happening when you see the color red. The sun or a light bulb or a candle sends out energy. That energy travels in waves. Think of waves on the ocean. Some are tall and close together, some are long and far apart. The distance between the peaks of each wave is what we call its wavelength. Red light has a wavelength of about 700 nanometers. That number means nothing to you. So let me make it real. A nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. To put 700 nanometers into perspective, if you stacked 700 nanometers on top of each other, you'd have a layer thinner than a single human hair. We're talking about a ripple of energy so small it doesn't have a name in everyday language. That ripple hits a tomato. The tomato's surface absorbs almost everything. It rejects one particular wavelength, 700 nanometers, and bounces it back toward your eye. Now here's the critical part. That bounced wave has no color. It is not red. It is not anything. It is a vibration, an oscillating electromagnetic field moving through space at the speed of light. It has a frequency, like a musical note, but it has no color. Not yet. But you're thinking, when it hits my eye, I see red, so the color must be there. That won't work. Here's why. Your eye has cone cells, roughly 6 million of them, in 3 types. Each type responds to a different range of wavelengths. When that 700 nanometer wave arrives, the long wave cones fire and send a signal, not a color, just a number up the optic nerve into your brain. Your brain receives a number, just a ratio of how much each type of cone fired compared to the others. And then, only then, your brain does something extraordinary. It invents red. It assigns that ratio an experience, a felt quality, a redness. Think of it as a translation. Your brain translates a mathematical ratio into a feeling. Here's a simpler way to see it. Imagine a piano key. The key is just wood and felt. It doesn't contain music. But when you press it, it sends a signal, a vibration in the air, and something in your brain turns that vibration into the experience of a note. The sound isn't in the key. The sound is in you. Color works the same way. The wavelength is the key. Your brain is the piano. okay, you think? But it's still a consistent translation, right? 700 nanometers always equals red? That won't work either. And that brings us to verdict 2. But let's say you accept this. Let's say you're comfortable with your brain doing the translation. Then you face the next wall. 2 people stand in front of the same red apple. Both of their eyes receive the same 700 nanometer wave. Both of their cone cells fire. Both of their brains send signals up the optic nerve. But inside their heads, the experience is different. We have no way to prove this. That's the terrifying part. Think about it this way. Imagine you grew up in a world where everyone called a certain feeling red. You learned the word by pointing at apples, fire trucks, stop signs. But what if the felt experience inside your head, the actual sensation, is what another person would call green? You both say red. You both point at the same things. No one ever finds out. This isn't philosophy for its own sake. The science backs it up. We know that about 8% of men and 0.5% of women have some form of color vision difference. They see the world with a different palette, and for most of their lives, they don't know it. Because they learned color names the same way everyone else did. Their red just happens to look like what others would call orange or brown, and no one notices. Because the words match, only the experience differs. But it goes deeper than that. In 2015, the internet broke over a photograph of a dress. Some people saw it as blue and black. Others saw white and gold. Same photograph, same pixels, same wavelengths, entering different eyes. Completely opposite experiences. Scientists eventually explained it. People's brains were making different assumptions about lighting. Some assumed daylight, others assumed indoor light. The brain wasn't seeing the dress. It was solving a puzzle, and different brains reached different answers. But that's just edge cases, you say. Normally, we all agree. That won't work. Here's why. Agreeing on the name isn't the same as sharing the experience. You and every person you've ever met could be walking around in completely private color universes, and the only thing that binds you together is a shared vocabulary you've never seen through someone else's eyes. You never will. And if you think that's unsettling, wait until you hear what some animals are dealing with. Because the color experience isn't just different between humans. For some creatures, your entire visible world is a flat, dim, almost colorless place. Dogs have 2 types of cone cells. You have 3. That one extra type is the difference between the world you see and the world they see. Their red is your gray, their green is your yellow. And here is the part that should stop you cold. A mantis shrimp has 16 types of cone cells. 16. We can't even imagine what they experience. There may be colors out there that no human brain has ever felt colors without names, without even a concept. The universe may be far more colorful than we will ever know. But let's say you're fine with personal variation. Then you face the next wall. Verdict 3. Here's a question no one asks at dinner. Where does red end and orange begin? Point at a rainbow. Find the exact line, the exact pixel, the exact moment red becomes orange. You can't, because there is no line. Color is a continuous spectrum, a smooth gradient of wavelengths, sliding from one into the next without a single hard edge. The universe didn't draw any lines. There are no chapters. There are no categories. We drew them. Every color boundary, every color name in every language is a human invention, a cultural agreement, a story we collectively decided to tell. And here's where it gets strange. Different languages carve the spectrum differently. In Russian, there is no single word for blue. Russian has 2 separate words, goluboy for light blue and siny for dark blue. They are as different to a Russian speaker as red and orange are to you. Not shades, different colors. In Japanese, the word aoi covered both blue and green for centuries. Old traffic lights were called blue, even though we'd call them green. The World Color Survey studied 110 languages and found that no 2 cultures drew the lines in exactly the same place. Think about that. The colors you see, the specific categories your brain groups things into were handed to you by your language, by your culture, by the particular slice of human civilization you were born into, you didn't discover colors, you inherited them. And here is a detail that haunts me. The ancient Greek poet Homer, who wrote some of the most vivid descriptions in human history, never once used the word blue. Not in the Iliad, not in the Odyssey. He described the sky as bronze. He described the sea as wine dark. The best explanation, they simply didn't have a word for it yet. And without a word, the brain doesn't build a separate category. They may have seen the same sky you see and simply filed it somewhere else. But the wavelengths are still real, you say. Even if we name them differently, the physical reality is the same. That won't work. And here's the most mind-bending part. A wavelength is just a number, a physical measurement. It has no more inherent relationship to a color experience than the number 440 has to the feeling of hearing a musical note. The number exists. The experience is added by you. The universe sends waves. You add the color, but let's say language is just a label, that the experience, whatever it is, still comes from outside. Then you face the strangest wall of all. Verdict 4. Now, let's talk about something no one says out loud. Your eyes are closed right now, at least for this thought experiment. No light is entering them. Yet inside your dreams, the world is full of color, vivid, saturated, sometimes more real feeling than waking life. Red dreams, blue skies, green forests. All of it occurring in complete darkness with zero wavelengths hitting your retinas. Where is the light coming from? There is no light. Your brain is generating color with no input whatsoever. It's doing it from memory, from expectation, from the patterns it has stored over a lifetime of seeing. It knows what grass looks like, so when you dream of a field, it renders grass green from scratch, no photons required. This means something profound. Color was never coming from outside you. Your brain was always the source. The outside world was just giving it suggestions. Think of it this way. Your brain is like a painter who has been watching references for decades. When you see the real world, the painter quickly matches what's coming in to the palettes already memorized. But in the dark, the painter just paints from memory, and the painting feels just as real. There's a condition called Charles Bonnet syndrome. People who lose their eyesight completely begin seeing vivid hallucinations, bright colors, detailed faces, impossible landscapes. No light enters their eyes, no signal reaches the brain. But the color keeps coming because it was never dependent on the eyes. The eyes were just messengers. The color was always manufactured inside. Think about what that means. Your brain doesn't receive color, it produces it. Every time you open your eyes, your brain isn't passively recording the world like a camera. It is actively constructing a version of the world using the incoming signals as a rough guide, then filling in the rest from memory, expectation, and context. You are not watching reality. You are watching your brain's best guess at reality. And most of the time, that guess is astonishingly good, but it is still a guess. And this raises a question that should keep you up tonight. If your brain can produce full color experiences with zero external input, how confident are you that the colors you see while awake are an accurate picture of anything? The honest answer is not very. Verdict 5. Now I want you to step very far back. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. For most of that time, the overwhelming majority of it, there was no color anywhere. There were stars, galaxies, supernovas, electromagnetic radiation flooding across billions of light years of space. But no eyes, no brains, no one to do the translation. All of that light, all of that beauty existed as raw, unwitnessed data. Color as an experience is perhaps 600 million years old. That's roughly when the first primitive eyes appeared on Earth. Before that, the universe was sending its signals into empty darkness and no one was receiving. For 13.2 billion years, there were no colors, only wavelengths. You are a brief, unlikely flicker in an otherwise colorless cosmos. Every sunset you've ever seen, every painting that made you stop, every color that carries a memory, a childhood bedroom painted yellow, a blue dress, autumn leaves. None of it existed before life invented the machinery to feel it. You didn't find color. You made it. And that makes you something extraordinary. Not small, not insignificant, rare. The universe is vast and ancient and mostly dark and mostly silent. It has no eyes, it generates no color, it experiences nothing. But you do. You are the part of the universe that turned data into beauty. That took a stream of electromagnetic waves and called it a sunrise. That looked at a dead star's ancient light and named it blue. The cosmos didn't paint itself. It waited for billions of years until something with neurons and cone cells and a brain wild enough to hallucinate beauty finally arrived. And that something is you. We are not just in the universe. We are how the universe finally gets to see itself in color. Keep looking up and keep looking inward, because the most astonishing thing in all of space isn't out there. It's the 3 pounds of matter sitting behind your eyes, quietly painting everything.